Welcome to Undisputed, live from Los Angeles. I'm Joy Taylor here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Joy. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's been wonderful.
Man, it's beautiful. I was home this weekend. The weather's nice fall mornings. There's nothing like fall in Georgia. Oh, it was great.
You had a great weekend?
Yeah, man. I can't wait to get the show started. Everybody good out there? Yeah, good. Guys.
How are you?
Good
to see you.
Hi, Skip.
You know, I'm not going to do it today because this is getting to be old hat. This is actually getting boring for me. So I'm just going to sit back and I'm not. How about the Cowboys? Did you people? I'll probably slip on the floor. Did you see what Dak Prescott did?
Sit down, man. You ain't in show business.
He didn't see it. He doesn't believe it. I got to finally win him over.
I thought I asked these people to wax the floor.
Yeah.
It's slippery.
Skip.
You had to do it.
What about humility? You were tweeting all day yesterday.
Creeping on me again.
About I will get my credentials yanked because
Yep. Okay. You know, I keep trying to warn you.
No.
I keep trying to educate you. Nope. I keep trying to save you from yourself. Nope. Because I like you. I want you to be my partner, so I've got your back here. But you won't listen to me. You won't learn. You keep picking against Dak Prescott, and he keeps proving you wrong again and again. How many times do you have to be wrong in a row before you finally say, you know what, I concede, I give up. It's all Dak all the time. Thank you very much.
Are we doing the mannequin challenge? I can't.
Next question.
Let's get it started. Well, starting off with the red-hot Cowboys. Dallas extended their winning streak to a franchise record 9 games yesterday after beating the Ravens 27-17. Dak Prescott threw over 300 yards with 3 touchdown passes, and Ezekiel Elliott broke Tony Dorsett's franchise rookie rushing record for the now 9-1 Cowboys. Skip, you predicted they would win, and you thought it would be close.
I did.
So how do you feel about the Cowboys today?
I thought the Ravens would score 17 because that was my score prediction, 20-17. And Dak actually proved me wrong again because he scored 27 instead of just the 20 I thought it would take to win this game over the Ravens. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I told you so. And I got to go back to September 6th. I told you on our first day of this show's history that in all my years of covering pro football back to the mid-1970s, I'd never seen anything like this kid through 3 preseason games. And of course, you, right on time, and you should have said this to me, it's just the preseason.
Yep.
But I said the poise, the accuracy, the maturity, the stature he showed me in the pocket at Seattle in that 3rd dress rehearsal preseason game when Romo was knocked out on the 3rd play. And Dak stood in against that blitz time and time again. And I said, this is real. And now, through 10 games at 9-1, and I'm going to remind you, Dak, if you look back at the numbers, played plenty well enough to win the opening day game against the Giants. If you look at the numbers, his QBR that day was 60, and they had every statistical category was plus Dallas in that game, except the final score was 20-19 because Measly Beasley dropped a touchdown pass on the 2-yard line early, and my man Des Bryant failed to control a touchdown pass in the back of the end zone mid-game. That was the difference in 20-19. So now we come up to 9-1 Dallas. And again, I'm going to say it. In all my years of covering this game, I've never seen anything like what this kid keeps doing. And furthermore, anything like how little credit he's now getting for what he does. I don't think the world's buying in yet. I don't think the world has really discovered Dak Prescott because I don't feel, maybe you do, but I don't feel any phenomenon like the Tebow-esque phenomenon, the Cam-esque phenomenon when Cam exploded onto the scene, even Cam dabbing through last year's MVP season. I just don't feel it. I don't get it because it's too subtle. He's doing it slowly but surely. He's doing it methodically. He's doing it unspectacularly. He doesn't dab. He doesn't have a celebration. He doesn't even do this because the show gets stolen by his running back doing this time and time again. He's the more exciting player. And so it's like, well, it's the running back. It's the offensive line. It's they don't really, they haven't played that hard to scare. I keep hearing all the above, and I told you 2 weeks ago in New York City, what was that? Actually, a week ago in New York City, I said he's my midseason MVP, and now to me he should be running away with MVP, and I don't hear a peep about that. Yesterday was Dak Prescott's greatest achievement to me because, as we talked about on Thursday, we didn't have a show on Friday. This was his toughest test. This was a grown man football team, the Baltimore Ravens, that knows how to play football. This team threw everything at Dak Prescott, including blitz after third quarter blitz, and he burned it again and again and again, especially on the little slant touchdown to Dez Bryant that he carried Young into the end zone on. And the reason he's doing it.
What team that's as good as the Cowboys appear to be are you going to beat if you commit 12 penalties for 136 yards? They had one player that had 3, Zuta. Now, why did he get all these penalties? Okay, we'll debate that another time. They allowed the Cowboys to possess the ball over 11 more minutes. Third down, they were 33%. They held Zeke in check the first half, 6 of 26. So I thought they did a great job. You're right. If you know what the Cowboys are, you know what they represent. They are a team that want to possess the football because the flaw of their team, if there is a flaw, it is their defense. So they minimize the amount of time that team, that side of the ball, has to be on the field. So Joe Flacco and other teams, if you know that, you must value possessions. You need to get the ball into the end zone because if you go 3 and out, even if they don't score, the next time you get the ball, they will have run 4 or 5 minutes off the clock. You're not going to get the ball a whole lot. Because if you think about it, they only had 9 possessions. 9 possessions. You need to be near flawless. You got to score on 50% of those possessions at the bare minimum to have a chance to beat this football team. Skip, I'm going to have to give Dak some credit because I thought the Ravens would take Zeke away. And they did for the most part. He did have 25 rush attempts, 97 yards. He didn't get out the end zone, a little less than 4 yards a carry. But when the guy goes 14 or 15 for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns in the second half, and then he has 11 first downs, and of those 14 completions, 11 of them went for first downs, it's going to be hard to beat him. Skip, I carry this pen around. You know why I carry this pen around, Skip? Because the Cowboys keep making me check boxes. Win, Cowboys won. Zeke running, Zeke. They run the football. Dak doing Dak throwing deep. Dak checking the ball down. Dak playing with poise. I got 1 X in the box. Jerry have yet to name him as his starting quarterback.
That is correct.
So until Jerry gets into steps in front of a camera, speaks into a mic, and says Dak Prescott is my starting quarterback, then and only then am I willing to say, you know what? This team is a legit Super Bowl contender because I still believe Jerry, as do you, is holding out hope that Dak will do something that will allow him just the slightest of opportunity to sneak Tony Romo back into the back door.
I would agree with that. I think Dak Prescott was playing for his job yesterday, and that's another reason his degree of difficulty is higher than other starting quarterbacks. Now he had the guy dressed, ready to come into the game yesterday, and I thought if he lost this game, and it's going to be a dangerous, we saw the Redskins last night, they're explosive and dangerous, arch rivals, obviously. They won at Texas Stadium last year. They've often won at Texas Stadium. I'm sorry, the Jerry World. I'm still going back in time because of all those games I saw them win at Texas Stadium. But the point is, Dak Prescott, listen to this. These are the stats that get lost. Dak Prescott's offense, that's the 8th consecutive game with at least 400 yards for his offense. That's tied for the longest single-season streak in NFL history with the 07 Patriots, we know Brady to Randy Moss, and the 2013 Broncos, Peyton, just at the MVP level, at the height of his greatness, right? So all they have to do is put up 400 yards against the Redskins, which I'll predict right now they'll put up 400 yards because I think everybody can put up 400 yards on the Redskins. We saw Aaron Rodgers and company do it easily last night. Then they'll break the all-time record. But do you hear about this? Is anybody talking about this? No. It's too subtle. It's too slow but sure. It's too methodical. It's too bing, bing, bing. It's not spectacular enough, even though he'll throw some deep balls.
Yeah,
he will.
He was
He'll
very
mix it
accurate
up.
yesterday throwing
Yeah.
the deep ball.
Yep.
Because I think the biggest thing is, Skip, is that because of his offensive line and because of Zeke,
Yep.
they minimize his importance to a team. And, they ran the ball really and I'm not saying the running back last year, the running back that got McFadden.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Darren McFadden is Ezekiel Elliott, but they ran the ball enough that if they had consistent QB play, they could have won some of those games that they lost. But because of Zeke has been unbelievable. I mean, he's on pace to break Eric Dickerson, where he fell a little bit behind it now.
Yep.
On pace to rush for over 1,800 yards. They got 3 first-rounders. They got 3 Pro Bowls, all pro guys on the offensive line.
Yep.
Well, everybody can play quarterback. It's not that easy because that's the same offensive line they had last year. They had those same weapons. Now, minus Dak, not Dak, but Dez was out for an extended period of time. But he doesn't get the credit that he deserved because Jerry won't give him the credit that he deserves. So if your owner, who has no problem telling you who's going to play, who's healthy, what's going on, if he won't come out and praise his own quarterback, the media sure is not going to do it.
So, bottom line, are you ready to buy into my Cowboys?
No.
So basically, you're saying that yesterday was more about the Ravens committing, what was it, 12
for
penalties,
136.
Right? Okay, so that's it. That's why Dallas won, because the Ravens had 12 penalties, right?
Well, they was only 33% on third down. They let the Cowboys.
The Ravens were, yeah.
Well, I keep saying let, but for whatever reason, I keep saying they let them have the ball for over 35 minutes. Man, I'm done talking about the Cowboys.
No, you're not.
They're lucky.
Lucky. Let's talk more Cowboys. The Cowboys have the best record in the NFL, but the Seahawks are right behind them. Russell Wilson threw a touchdown pass and caught one as well in their win against the Eagles. Skip, who is the best team in the NFC right now? Your Cowboys or Seattle?
I'm going to give my Cowboys a slight edge, but I do have high regard.
I did not jump off.
I believe I heard jump off with both feet.
I jumped off the Steelers.
Okay.
Bandwagon.
You were down on Seattle for a long time.
I was getting ready to, and as soon as I got ready to jump, Russell Wilson grabbed me by my collar and pulled me back on.
He or Pete Carroll. So Pete Carroll said last night after the game that you've seen these, he used the word shifts from us before, meaning momentum swings, where suddenly they just turn it like 2/3 of the way through. And right on schedule, they have turned it around because the quarterback appears to be getting pretty healthy, if not completely healthy. And again, they had a couple of big injuries yesterday, and my Cowboys, please God, have been mostly blessed. Mo Claiborne's still gone, but hey, that little kid, Anthony Brown, the little rookie he's playing pretty well. Anyway.
He is playing well.
So I look at what happened. Pro-Size comes out of nowhere, and it looked like they had a legit back. Obviously, Rawls is back too, and then Pro-Size busts up his shoulder, and he's gone maybe for the rest of the year.
Right.
Pretty big hit, I would say, to the offense. Then Earl Thomas, who can be the spark plug of that defense, pulled his hamstring. I don't know how bad it is, but it sounds like he's going to be gone for a while. So that's 2 slight advantages, Dallas.
Right.
I look at Seattle's schedule. It is very possible, scarily, frighteningly possible in my eyes, that they could win out. Because they got at Tampa, although Tampa shocked me yesterday to go up to Kansas City and win that game. That was pretty impressive. So it's at Tampa, Carolina, at Green Bay, Rams, Arizona, at 49ers. They could win out. If they do, that would mean my Cowboys could only lose 1 game down the stretch. And it gets a little dicey here because I'll just tell you their away games are at Minnesota, at Giants, at Eagles. And it's possible you could lose a couple of those games. So if they do, it's all about home field. I said before the year started, I thought it would be Seattle at Jerry World for the NFC Championship, and I'm going to stick with it, but my Cowboys are going to have to even surprise me a little bit to close at 14-2, because that's what they're 9-1 now, so they could only lose 1 more game, because I fear that Seattle has shifted into high gear, and here they come. But here they would go. I don't think they can win at Jerry World, but I'm not sure my Cowboys could win at Seattle either.
Who would have thought that it might come down to a tie? And the tie might cost Seattle an opportunity to have home field.
A 6-6 tie in overtime.
Yep.
Wow.
And the thing is, Skip, is that you look at Seattle and their running attack. They get Rawls back. Precise goes down. They release Christian Michael, who's their leading rusher in touchdown. So now, what do you have? It's not like if you take away that big long run that he had, the carry he had for 72 yards, they only had like 28 carries for like 80 yards after that.
Yep.
So it's not like they're running the football. And Russell Wilson is having Dak Prescott can't catch a touchdown pass. Bet he can't do that.
I bet he can't.
I bet he can't.
I bet he can't.
We don't know.
He can't run like Russell Wilson.
I saw Russell do it. So we speculating on what Dak can do.
Oh, he can catch.
We don't know that.
Come on.
But that being said, I would say if I had to pick one of these teams, I would take Seattle for the simple fact we know what they are over the last 3 to 4 years. And this time of the year, as Pete said, they're normally riding along in second and third gear, and somehow they're able to get to fourth. No matter who's in the lineup, it doesn't matter. Now, Bennett's going to come back at some point in time. He's their best defensive lineman, I believe. He's the one guy that you must account for on that defensive line.
Tom Brady always says that's the guy.
So you put him along with Averill and Clark, and they can do some damage. The linebackers, I like what they represent. Richard Sherman, because see, this is why I give Seattle the advantage. Richard Sherman can take Dez Bryant one-on-one. Cam Chancellor can take Witten one-on-one. So now if I need to, I like Wagner and I like the other KJ Wright at linebackers to shut down Zeke. I like the matchup now. Now, you still, Cole Beasley's sneaky. I mean, you're looking at him like, man, this little dude ain't about to do nothing. And next thing you know, he's got like 15 yards in the first down, and now he's pointing.
Yeah, Shed got hurt yesterday too, and I don't know his stature, but that's another corner.
Yeah. So I would give a slight nod because I still believe as great as Dak is playing, I know what Russell represents come playoff time. I've seen his history. I know what this team is capable of in the playoffs. I have yet to see the Cowboys resemble as well as they played, and as well as they played in 2014. They didn't look like this against Green Bay once they got to the playoffs. So with that being said, I would give the slight nod to Seattle because I know what they represent, and come playoff time, they're a different animal. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And all I can remember is the third quarter of the third dress rehearsal preseason game at Seattle. No ammo. Listen to me. Zeke decided to make a statement against that Seattle Legion of Doom or Boom or whatever it is, and he just started head hunting. Okay. Where's Cam? I'm looking for Cam. I bust through this front here because these pass rushers are all soft. They can't stop me.
Oh, they're soft now.
Yeah, they're soft against the run because listen, this is a grown man offensive line they beat.
Oh, they for real? You know what? Now you see what's going to happen, Skip. Now, Cam Chancellor, I don't know if Cam is up this early in the morning, but someone's going to tell him that Skip Bayless said Zeke headhunted you, dropped you on your bottom. Now you're going to cause Cam, when they play, to do something bad to Zeke. Okay. And you're going to feel bad because you brought it upon Zeke. Zeke didn't ask for this. Yep. You brought this upon him. You could have left well enough alone. You could have said he went up to Seattle, third preseason game. He ran tough. But no, that wasn't good enough for you.
You know what? I am not afraid. Could I have my camera, please, just for a second? Just for a second. Cam. He's coming.
Okay. Okay.
He's coming.
So you want the egg on a 6'3", 232.
Because Zeke said, where is that man? I can't remember what number. He's just looking for the number, and he goes and just rams him head on. I just want to take one big shot at it.
Can I get a camera there? Cam, can you do something bad? When he tries to run over you, drop that forearm right in his chest, and I want Skip to say, I'm sorry, Cam.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
sorry you guys lost, Cam. I'm sorry.
You know what the Seahawks represent in the playoffs, Skip. You know they take it up a notch. They're the Legion of Boom.
Well,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay. How about that?
Okay.
We'll find out. Coming up, has Charlie Strong gotten a fair shot at Texas? Skip and Shannon debate that next. Fire Charlie Strong. Strong's record at Texas is 16-20. The Longhorns lost in overtime Saturday to a Kansas team that was 1-9. It was their first loss to Kansas since 1938. Strong is expected to speak at a press conference later this morning. Skip, has Charlie Strong gotten a fair shot?
Yes, he has. And I must admit, I am shocked that he hasn't seized this opportunity to do a better job at Texas over a 3-year period. I got to know Charlie a little bit personally in my time at the other network. I like him very much. I believed in him. I loved what he did at Louisville as a head coach, coming off the coordinating jobs that he did for Urban Meyer at Florida and 2 national championships. He went 23-3 as the head coach at Louisville over those last 2 years, and I thought, okay, this is going to work at Texas. Now, he wasn't the first choice at Texas. In fact, I'm not even sure he was like the 9th or 10th choice. Just quickly to go over the list, they made runs at Saban and Harbaugh and Jimbo and Urban Meyer, Chip Kelly, Malzahn, Les Miles, Jim Moore, David Shaw, Mike Tomlin, James Franklin. All the big names they made runs at, and for whatever reasons, none of those clicked or worked. So it came to Charlie Strong. So I will give you this. There were great expectations in the beginning, and maybe a little too much early scrutiny for immediate signs of life and progress. And I will tell you, and I talked about this on my old show a lot, I was very impressed. Charlie walked right in the door and ran off 9 players, 9 of Mac Brown's former players, for disciplinary reasons, for violating team rules. And I thought that was a bold early statement. But that crackdown did not manifest itself in early success for his program, as I thought it would, because as we all know, he jumps out the first year, he goes 6-7. Second year, 5-7. Some big kicking game blunders and breakdowns that looked like they were in part coaching blunders. This year, they're 5-6. And I got to tell you, I look hard at what he's done over 3 years, and there's just one statement win. There's one significant win, and it was over the team I root for, the Oklahoma Sooners, not this year, but last year. Stoops, as he will once or twice a year, just didn't have his team ready to play an arch rivalry game. Texas jumped all over him from the start. OU rallied, lost 24-17. And as I look at it hard, that's the only time I said, Charlie's got it going. I know we thought it was on opening night this year against Notre Dame, double overtime, 50-47. But now we know Notre Dame is basically a disaster. So that
might be worse than Texas.
Well, I think they are. I think they are worse than Texas. I would agree. So that brings me to what happened on Saturday. You just, as the head coach at the University of Texas, trust me, I grew up in this rivalry in the state of Oklahoma versus Texas, so I know it well, and I've spent a lot of time in Austin. There's certain things that the Texas coach just can't get away with, and losing at Kansas with an 11-point lead in the fourth quarter and losing in overtime is just not acceptable. I mean, it's going to be the final nail, man. It's hard to overcome losing to a team that had won 1 game this year against Rhode Island. 1 game against Rhode Island. It's the first time you've lost to Kansas as a school in 38 years. Come on now. And your calling card as Charlie Strong is the defensive side of the football, and he has trotted out some of the worst defenses in all of college football. Right now, they're 97th in yards allowed and 92 in the nation in points allowed. That's not right. That's not progress. And he took over at midseason, as we know, the defense. Vance Bedford demoted. So now you can't even give me that. And yet on offense, they're pretty good. They're fun to watch because Shane Buechele is a true freshman. He's got a live arm. I think they found their first pocket passer since Bobby Lane.
Well, that guy threw Kansas back into the ball game.
No, I agree. But he's a true freshman, and you're going to get that occasionally from him. I'm with you on that. But he's had some big games, too. And that Deontay Foreman, he's leading the nation in rushing at 186 a game. You want to talk about beasting on people?
If I'm Freeman Skip, I show up on Saturdays. Okay. He carried the ball 51 times.
Yeah.
He carried it 39, 38.
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't have anything during the week. I'm not showing up until Saturday to play games.
So,
go ahead,
so they have recruited okay so far. The first year they were 16th in the country, the 9th the second year, 10th last year. They're not doing so well right now because he's on the hot seat, but it sounds like the hot seat's even over now.
Yep.
But the point is, I just thought he was better than this. And after 3 years, if I saw a little sign of progress here and there, I'd say, hey, let the kids continue to grow up, give him a shot next year. I'm sorry, as much as I like him personally, I cannot defend him any longer.
Skip, I thought the first year he didn't get a fair shake because at his introductory press conference, one of Texas' largest boosters, Red McComb, says he'd make a great defensive coordinator.
Yep.
But if you want to win administration, you want to win the student body, you want to win boosters over, you win. And that's all he had to do. If he had one ball game, I'm going to say, the first year, chalk that up. Hey, new system, try to get your guys in there. You're trying to weed out all the bad apples, find out the guys that truly, sincerely want to play football, who truly, sincerely want to be at the University of Texas, and what it means to have that burnt orange on with that the long horn on the side of the helmet. I need to find those guys. I need to make sure the guys that were here before I got here truly want to be here. So he weeded out. And like you said, when you come in and you lay the hammer down, it needs to manifest itself in wins. It did not. With that being said, so now we go to the second and third year. Skip, you got to win. This is there are certain jobs, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, USC, Notre Dame. Those jobs, you can't go 8-4. 9-3 is not good enough for those jobs. You need to be playing, you need to get into the playoffs, or at the bare minimum, play on New Year's. You got to play in one of those big bowls, Skip. Because if you don't, they're going to run you out of town. Because they've been at the top of the mountaintop for so long. Now, I don't know if Texas in a year or two, even if I believe they're going to go after Tom Herman, the head coach of the University.
I would assume so. Yep.
I thought that at the very beginning.
And you've liked him all year.
I have. Now, maybe because I thought he did an unbelievable job of calling play. Ohio State hasn't looked the same offensively since he left.
I'm with you.
Now, and they kept Cordell Jones and they put Barrett back in there, and they had a lot of the same pieces.
Correct.
Only thing but they didn't look the same. So I'm not so sure that if he comes in there, I do think they'll be better. But I don't know if they're going to be able to contend right away for a national championship. But Skip, this is not good enough. You need to play for a New Year's Day, or you need to get into the playoffs. And he wasn't even close. And as you mentioned, he got the big win on opening day against Notre Dame. And you're like, okay, this is Charlie's year. And now we look at Notre Dame lost to NC State. You look at now Brian Kelly, both of these guys, you think about it, both of these guys might lose their job.
They might.
Charlie Strong and Notre Dame's head coach, Brian Kelly, excuse me. Skip, this is disappointing. And because if you look at, like you mentioned, his expertise is defense. They are terrible. And if you look at what he had at the University of Florida, 2 national championships, he was dialing it up. And even at Louisville, you're like, okay, but Skip, sometimes the grass isn't always greener. He had a great thing at Louisville. Expectations, you go 8-4, 9-3 at Louisville, you're going to be there for 20 years. You go 8-4, 9-3, you might get 5 years at the University of Texas. Because they got rid of Mike Brown for those very same records.
They did.
After he won a national championship and lost another one when Colt McCoy got injured early in that ball game. They got rid of Mike Brown for 8-4, 9-3. That's unacceptable at this university. And Skip, Kansas didn't cost Charlie Strong this job. This was gone long before. Once he lost to Cal, once he lost those games early, he wasn't coming back. He could have beat Kansas by 40, and Charlie Strong was going to be out of this job come end of the year.
But that did cinch it, obviously. Well, that was it, man.
But see, now you don't really have to, we really like Charlie, because if you fire him at 8-4, you're like, well, man, look like he was turning this thing around. Now you fire, and plus, even if he's 8-4, he loses to Kansas. You probably still gonna fire him, but you're gonna say, you lost to Kansas. You can't lose to Kansas. You can't lose to Kansas in Texas, Austin. You can't lose to him in Lawrence. You can't lose to him in the parking lot. You can't lose to him in LA. At University of Texas, you can never, ever lose to Kansas. And he lost. So, like you said, the final nail, but that wasn't even a nail. That was a tack.
I'll buy that.
Maybe even a statement. This was a foregone conclusion, Skip. Nobody thought with his record that he was going to be back at the University of Texas next year.
So just for perspective, according to Forbes, this is the most valuable program in all of college football, and it's not even close.
Yes.
Because it's the most profitable program in all of college football. It generated last year $92 million in pure profit, which was only $5 million short of all the revenue generated at Alabama, not counting. No, that's not about the profit, just the total revenue generated. Wow. So this is a money machine.
Yes.
And it's, as they say in Texas, big business.
Yeah.
And the guy at the helm, the head coach, has to have a little bit of charisma and showmanship. And the Charlie I know off camera, he has humility to him. He's
Yes.
soft-spoken. He's not a dynamic personality, but I still think he's a good football coach.
Yes.
But I don't know if that translates at Texas without the personality to go with the acumen.
You got to be able to smooth with the guys.
You
He
do.
says, I don't go to the country club. I don't play golf.
He said that a couple of weeks
I
ago.
don't play
I know.
golf. Well, Charlie, you got to go out there and shoot 200.
Something. Or figure something else to do. Yeah, go to dinner.
Boom.
He said, I call him. I keep in touch.
No,
It's
you
not
got
enough.
You got to see it, Skip. I'm looking at Charlie Strong, and I looked at him the first week against Notre Dame and the excitement and of winning that ball game and that shootout, and I saw him Saturday. Skip, he's aged 10 years and 4 months.
I agree.
I mean,
I do. I'll be relieved for him when he's out from under this.
First of all, he needs to go somewhere because I think he was able to flourish at Louisville because the pressure wasn't what it is at Texas.
It's not.
So because 8-4-93 at Louisville is good. You can keep that job for 15 years. You're not keeping this job at the University of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, these gold stars, the Alabamas and the USCs and the Texas and the Notre Dames and the Ohio States and Michigan, Skip, you need 10-2. You need playoffs. You need, the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl. You need to get into those games. Playing December 18th in a bowl game. It's not going to cut it at the University of Texas.
Which is what he did the first year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't fault him for trying to better his career by taking this job.
No.
It doesn't feel like enough time to turn it around, but like you said, the expectations of Texas, it doesn't work.
For what it's worth, he will get $10.7 million in a buyout.
So,
hey, I ain't looking for no job. You Charlie, we interested in you, coach.
Nah.
Click.
I'm
not working this year.
Hey, I'm looking at the call ID. This is a solicitation call. I ain't even answering that. No, 10.7, Skip, I'm shutting it down. For my next job, I'm going to an ideal situation where I can be me. I don't have to play golf. I don't have to meet with the boosters. I mean, you're going to have to do it sometime, but it's not going to be a weekly occurrence where I got to go shake hands and kiss babies and pat
people. It's not going to age in 10 years.
No. I'm going somewhere where I can win. 8-9 games a year will be good enough for me to keep gainful employment, and I can live a happy and prosperous life. But that's a pressure cooker. You go to those 5-6 big-time schools,
you got
to
be all in.
Yeah, it takes a special guy to coach there.
Next up, the Redskins offense took over last night against the Packers. Kirk Cousins threw for nearly 400 yards with 3 touchdown passes for the now 6-3-1 Redskins. After the game, a fired-up Cousins had a message for Washington's GM, Scott McCloughan. Let's take a listen.
How do you like me now? How do you like me now? How do you like me now? How do you like me now?
When he gets fired up, he can't control himself. No. You've been very critical of Cousins. How sold are you on him right now?
I don't like this because that guy's still your boss. And I get it. You're emotional. Maybe you took it as a snide that they didn't think you had proven enough over the first couple of years to give you the extension that you felt you wanted, but this was a bit much.
He did get the franchise tag.
He got the franchise.
$20 million.
Got $20 million.
Okay.
But Skip, that's a grown man. First of all, another grown man should never put his hand in another grown man's hair. First of all, that's first and foremost. I'm not your child. Second of all, I'm your boss. Okay, with all that being said, Skip, you know the Redskins done messed up, right? By not giving him that contract that he wanted last year, because I think if they'd have given him a Brock Osweiler contract with something like $40 million, he could have lived with that. Brock Osweiler got $37 million guaranteed. The Redskins are about to put another $30 to $40 million on top of that in guaranteed money. Because if you look at the last 20 games, Kirk Cousins has thrown 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Only one quarterback in the NFL has thrown for more touchdowns with fewer interceptions. That's Tom Brady. Not Aaron Rodgers, not Drew Brees. Andrew Luck, who just got $87 million guaranteed, his last 20 games, 38-23. Redskins, like that movie. You know you done messed up, right? And in the words of Teddy KGB, pay the man. Pay him his money.
Really?
Because that's what they're going to have to do.
So he stole the pot.
Sometimes you roll the dice. Skip, I know you don't gamble, but when you go to the casino and you
I
roll,
have in my life.
okay,
I've been.
so you're playing crap, and so you throw the dice out there, and your point is 8. Now you can get 8 a lot of different ways. You can get it 6-2, 5-3, or you can get it what they call the hard way, 4-4. Now they give you a lot of averages, so if you want to get it the hard way, Skip, you double down on the hard way. Now the Redskins maybe was hoping Kirk Cousins crap out. Snake eyes. 7 out is what they call it. Then they pull the stick out there and rake the dice in. His point was 8, and he rolled it the hard way. Skip, it's going to cost them $65 to $70 million in guaranteed money to secure this man next year. Or you're going to have to pay him $25 million in guaranteed money with the franchise tag because you got to give him 120% raise over the 19.9 that you gave him last year, which would be roughly around, $24 to $25 million. Skip, he's proven it. And you can go around, if you look at a lot of these quarterbacks that's making this money, look at Tannehill. Would you take Tannehill over him? Would you take Brock Osweiler over him? No, you wouldn't. So you take Jay Cutler over him? You take Sam Bradford over him? No, you wouldn't. Skip, this is where you are now. You made this bed, Washington. You felt that, hey, we think he's a fraud. We don't think he can replicate what he did last year. You made this bed. But what you thought he was laying on was nails and bricks. He got him a nice down comforter. He made it real comfortable. He got a Tempur-Pedic because he's sitting real pretty and real soft right now, Skip. It is over. If something unforeseen were to happen, barring that, and I hope it doesn't, Kirk Cousins is about to get $65, $70 million guaranteed. His contract will rival Andrew Luck's because you know what? He's played better over the last 20 games, and they're pretty much the same age. They came out in the same draft. And I would be remiss if I didn't say this. All the people that criticize my former head coach, Mike Shanahan, you drafted RG3. How could you take Kirk Cousins? No more questions. The floor is yours, Mr. Bates.
So you are predicting that the Redskins are going to have to pay Kirk Cousins $70 million next year, right?
65 to 70 guaranteed, absolutely.
I sure hope you are right because I am still dug in saying, as a Cowboy supporter, I hope they do because I think that would be a big mistake long term. That's just me. And you mentioned all those teams, Dolphins, Bears, Texans. They all make huge mistakes. And I was on record before each one saying, again, I like Jay Cutler only because he went to my school, but I can't defend him as a long-term investment anymore.
Colts make a mistake on Andrew Luck?
No. I mean, you have to do that because I said RG3 would be better than Andrew Luck, and he was for the first year until he got hurt.
Okay.
But my point is, I am not buying Kirk Cousins. In part for what we just saw on that video.
Yeah.
That was some rub-it-in stuff. That's insecurity flashing through where you're not sure who you are, that you have to go gloat to your GM and try to literally rub it in his hair. Are you
That's
kidding
not franchise quarterback behavior.
No, it's not. You're not sure of yourself either. And I'm going to say it again. Kirk Cousins has what I call the haywire gene. When you least expect it, he'll throw it to the other team. In big moments, he'll throw it to the other team. There's some Romo going on. He's becoming a Tony Romo because Kirk Cousins, as you just capably pointed out, convincingly pointed out, he's got big talent. Gruden talked last night about how his ball, he was just splitting the wind with some of those fourth quarter throws. He can spin the football. He can throw it deep. He can throw it medium. He can flip it short.
Yes.
He's got the whole repertoire of starting quarterback, franchise quarterback capability. But there's something missing in there where when the pressure is greatest, Kirk Cousins has always been an overachiever. And at heart, he knows he's still trying to prove himself. I'm still trying to prove. It's like Romo, undrafted free agent. Big pressure moment. I gotta do this. I'm going to try that. No, don't do that. Don't try that. And I'll just, case in point. Remember game 2 this year at Washington, my Cowboys at Washington? Remember what happened?
Yeah.
10:43 remaining. Remember this play? Throws it in the air. Wait, he threw it right to Barry Church. I went to church, and Barry Church went to church. That was the turning point of the Cowboys season because they were down 23-20 at that point. It was 3rd and 6 from the 3rd and goal from the 6.
Yes.
So if he converts that throw to a Redskin, we're having a different conversation because I think Washington's going to win that game, except Dak went the other way, 80 yards, 11 more plays, ho-hum, methodical, all the way down the field, 27-23 Cowboys, and it launched 9-1.
Or if you just get a field goal.
Yeah,
now it's
just
26-20.
All right.
They come down and score a touchdown, 27-26.
Okay,
now
you're still in the game.
Right,
You're still in the game.
Correct.
But my point is, I look at the losses this year. Redskins have lost 3 games. In those games, Kirk Cousins is 2 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, which cuts against what you just said, what's 40-10 over the last whatever it is. And they tied the game. So if you throw in the tie, it's 4-4, 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions to 3 losses and a tie. So they go as Kirk Cousins goes. But when the chips are on the table, to use your gambling analysis, the Vegas analogy, let's see what happens Thursday. I'm betting on Dak over. I'll take Dak slow but sure over Kirk Cousins spectacular, because spectacular will ultimately get you beaten at the wrong moment at the wrong time.
And I just want to know the NFL schedule makers that still have a job that schedule the Washington to play Sunday night at 8:30 and then again Thursday at 4:30. And they wonder why the ratings are down and the players' injuries are up. This might have something to do with it, because this makes no sense.
I still have a little pull in the league office. I pulled a string.
You
pulled a string, yeah. I did. Yeah.
But
love it.
They're going to have to pay him, Skip. They're going to have to pay him.
Well, they might be stuck. It might be damned if we do, damned if we don't.
But here's the thing. You know firsthand you can't win in this league unless you got a competent, qualified quarterback. You can win a few games, but you can't win long term. Okay, if you don't play Kirk Cousins, is there anybody in the draft that when you're going to be selecting that you would say, I would rather have him over Kirk Cousins? I don't believe there is, especially where they're going to be drafting. So with that being said, he's proven it to you, Skip. And Michael Lombardi says you need 20 games. Most people say, hey, after 20 games, you know what a guy is. Skip, this is what he is. You're gonna have, just like Jerry Page, Tony Romo. He had the same quality.
It's the same.
It's the same
dilemma. It's a dilemma. Like, what do I do? Do I let him go on to the market and let somebody else pay him $70 million?
Because you know that's going to happen. Now, the only way it won't happen if you exclusively franchise him. That way, the team would have to give up 2 first-rounders. Now, nobody's giving up 2 first-rounders. But with that being said, Skip, go ahead and pay the man.
Okay.
You said come back. Okay. I'm sure this is the conversation that the GM had with Kirk Cousins' representation. Prove it to us again that this wasn't a fluke. This wasn't an accident. And then when you come in, it's the same thing with Joe Flacco. They rolled the dice with Flacco. $2 million guaranteed in the last year of the deal. They could have had him for $14 million, but nope, they rolled the dice and now it cost them $19 million. And then they had to go redo the contract over again. So Flacco's going to make what you could have paid him, $15, $16 a year. You end up paying him probably $85 million
He's not good enough to merit that money. And neither is Kirk Cousins for the long haul. I'm going to stand. Like last year, what did they do? They basically stole the division. But they did win the division last year. And what happened in a home playoff game against Aaron Rodgers and company, that when it counted, Kirk Cousins turned back into Kirk Cousins.
And he just gave Aaron Rodgers Aaron Rodgers don't want to see Kirk. Like, first of all, I'm on the field with Kirk Cousins. And I'm the second best quarterback on the field tonight.
He was.
And now, you know what? I can't even call him third cousin. That's my first cousin right now. I need my first cousin. My first cousin on Thursday. First cousin gonna get these boy.
He may have rubbed a couple dollars off the top when he rubbed the
on first cousin. Watch first cousin. I'm gonna be eating me some. I'm gonna be eating on Thursday. Get him first cousin.
You better be.
Get him first cousin.
Like Zeke?
No, that Kirk Cousins. I like that.
Coming up,
I like that.
Are Tom Brady's Patriots clearly the best team in the AFC? Michael Lombardi knows the Patriots as well as anyone, and he will join us next. With a 30-17 win on the road against the 49ers yesterday, Tom Brady threw 4 touchdown passes, and the Patriots are now 8-2. We're joined by former NFL GM Michael Lombardi, spent the last 2 seasons with the Patriots staff. Yeah. Welcome, Michael.
Good morning, everyone.
Are the Patriots clearly the best team in the AFC right now?
You know, I think the Patriots played their best game yesterday from a complete game standpoint.
Really?
I thought they did. I thought they played their best defense. They had 3 and outs, which is unheard of. Now, they still can't turn the ball over, but they got 3 and outs. It's 13-10 game, and they got a 3 and out, which the pressure was on them to do it. They rushed the passer more effectively. They actually covered. Not that the 49ers receivers are very good, but they actually covered well. And so without
team, 49er team isn't very good.
well, they're not very good either. You know, it's funny. The Giants beat the Bears, and everybody says, well, you don't sleep on the Giants. But the Patriots beat the 49ers. The 49ers no good. That's a long story. But anyway, I thought that they were I thought they played a complete game without Gronk, and I think Deion Lewis back really is a difference in going to be what their offense is. Because Deion looked yesterday a little almost to the point where I thought, yeah, that's Deion that I know. And I think if they have Deion back, they're a completely different team. So to me, it's the Patriots, and then this is going to shock everybody. Whoever wins the North is going to be the most competitive factor for the Patriots to beat, because I think those teams match up. Baltimore is a physical team that the Patriots can't push around, and Pittsburgh can match them point for point. So there are two matchups that I don't think that sit well for
Really?
New England.
So no West, you're just going to the North.
The North is the one that I think that if you're in New England, that's the one that fears you. Baltimore is, I think Dallas didn't get enough credit for handling Baltimore yesterday in terms of how good Baltimore's defense is. I know that people think, well, look, they just moved the ball. No, that's a really good defense.
They are.
Mm-hmm. And they pushed them around. And when you can play against a team like that and you play that well, you're effective. So I think Baltimore is going to bounce back from it. They play Cincinnati this week without A.J. Green, without Giovanni Bernard. Cincinnati's going to mail it in.
And with Andy Dalton.
Well, Cincinnati is going to be the Cowboys of last year. They're going to be a good team with a lot of good players that are going to get a high pick, and they're going to benefit from it. Yeah. So there is some solace in all the misery that they're going through right now, but they are going to do that. But Pittsburgh, not impressive. I think Brad Allen took over the game once again, but the official. But I think Pittsburgh can bounce back, and I think those two teams are going to fight it out. Neither of them one of them is going to go, and one of them is going to go home.
Right. Well, I do think they're the best team, but I don't think they're head and shoulders. The question is, and it looks like you're going to have to go through New England. The question is, can you get to 25 points? Because that's the cutoff. The Patriots will score 25 points at home. I believe that's the bare minimum. I see, and this is why I differ with you. I think the Broncos have the defense because they have the three DBs, and Talib should be back after the bye week, so he should play Sunday. I think they play Sunday night. I think they play Sunday night. They should get Wolf back. So now you can match them defensively. We know what Ware will get back. They've only been playing Ware about 15 to 20 snaps. They want to get that up to about 30, 35 snaps. So I think my question is for the Broncos, can you score 25 with Trevor Siemian? I believe you can hold New England to maybe 25 or less, but can you get to 25 or more? Because that's how you're going to have to beat them. I don't believe you can beat this team 17-14. Not in their building. Now, maybe on the road in Denver, crowd knows it's coming to effect. Maybe you can hold them down. The Raiders have the offensive firepower. This is why I agree. Raiders have the offensive firepower. Pittsburgh have the offensive firepower. Steelers defense, come on, coach. That defense, no chance. But the Raiders, with all those penalties, they average 10 penalties a game for 90 yards. You're not beating a Bill Belichick coach team on the road, committing 9 penalties for 90 yards. That's not going to happen. So for me, I believe the Broncos will provide the stiffest test because of their defense. But my only concern is, can Trevor Siemian get to 25 points?
Interesting. So back to the first point you made about the game yesterday. I'm surprised you thought that was a complete game because I just had to throw that one out because of the 49ers.
Yeah.
And what shocked me was it was like Brady was toying with the game itself because he goes home to the Bay Area. Julian Edelman goes home to the Bay Area where they're from. And it was like an NBA All-Star game where the hometown star, you get together in the locker room and say, let's make him the MVP tonight. Let's make sure he gets the touches. He threw 17 balls to Edelman yesterday, and it felt like I'm going to make us the dynamic duo as we go home. It's our turn to have this stage to ourselves. And Tom threw, I don't know, maybe you can explain this, a lot of just lob passes. Just for a while I thought, is his arm hurting? But then he threw that late strike to Malcolm Mitchell that was just a fastball. But just a lot of high lobs, like the equivalent of the old baseball ephus pitches where he was just lobbing them down the field. And it felt like they were just toying with the 49ers. But I agree, the defense played better than I thought it would because they held Kaepernick and company to under 300 yards, 299, but that's pretty good.
Right. I mean, this is the same team that Dallas got behind 14-0
Yeah.
at home. I mean, so they have moved the ball effectively on people, and that's where my point was. I do think that they miss Gronk. I mean, no question they miss Gronk. So Edelman's going to get more looks. But I think Malcolm Mitchell grew up yesterday, and they need that. And then if Hogan's back gets better and they have Malcolm Mitchell, they become more potent offensively. And then Gronk being in there with Dion is a tough matchup. So
hey, I agree with Dion Lewis. He looked electric yesterday in small doses because that's all he got.
Right, and the fields, and it wasn't, look, I think the conditions, the New England Patriots lead the league in fumbles. Now, they don't lead the league in giving up fumbles. They lead the league in putting the ball on the carpet, which is remarkable. And there's so much time being spent on water balls. I mean, from the first day at OTAs, Bill's watering the balls down. He can't wait to water the balls down. And yesterday was a perfect example of all that. Right. Yeah. And there were no balls on the ground. It was a remarkable game in the sense there were no turnovers. True. I mean, the 49ers had 5 balls on the ground. They didn't lose any of them. But that was remarkable. And I think that's one of the areas they need to improve on is protecting the football, which they did. I think what you're talking about, that game plan was about not losing the game. That game plan offensively was, look, we can't lose this game, but if we need to gear it up, we'll gear it up. And if they score points and we're not playing good defense, we're going to have to gear it up. And I thought yesterday they didn't have to. And I thought they played the complementary football that they need to play. And that's why I was kind of somewhat impressed. Now, I understand it's the 49ers, but the 49ers have moved the ball. They moved the ball in a lot of teams. They just haven't been able to put it in the end zone.
So you've said this from day one on this show, that you still are not convinced about the Patriots' defense. And then I checked this morning. They are now 27th in takeaways. So the defense does not take the ball away from you. 27th in the NFL. Can the offense get so explosive with Gronk coming back, maybe Dion Lewis?
I think that's my concern. That's my hesitation when I get asked the question, are they the best team? They don't turn the ball over. The offense never plays on a short field. I mean, they don't get a short field at all. And so their field goal kicker, Steven, has missed another extra point yesterday, along with the other guys, Gostkowski. There's another concern for you. So you have areas that you look at this team and say, they're vulnerable. They are vulnerable. They're not. And I think Denver can't match them point for point, but in Denver, they're a better team. Kansas City, look, losing at home to Tampa, it's a stub, but Kansas City is kind of a unique team. They don't play enough diversity on defense to give New England trouble. They play one coverage, they play one match. It's really easy for New England to dissect what they're doing, and I don't think
which they did in the playoff game.
Which they did in the playoff game, and then, the game gets, Kansas City can't match you point for point.
And the thing is, because when your defense don't create extra possession for your offense, now that just adds pressure to Brady because he knows now I got to score because they're not going to give me extra possessions. No. So they're not going to give me a short field. So now the onus really picks up on that offense because they know we're not getting extra possessions. We're not getting a short field. But the key for them, as long as Gronk, listen, and this is not to minimize Tom Brady, but Gronk makes that offense go. When he's in the ball, because you see 17 targets, throw Gronk 17 targets, he's going to have 200 yards.
Yeah. I do. I think when you
and
play
3 touchdowns.
When you play this forward, though, which is an interesting conversation, when you play this forward and you say, okay, who's the 6th seed? Is it going to be Denver? Who's the 3rd seed? Is it Houston? And then that 4th seed, you probably is going to either be Pittsburgh or Baltimore.
Right.
Okay.
And
I'm with you.
Okay.
So the more dangerous playoff game. Let's say the Patriots maybe they lose at Denver, but they go 13-3. Let's say they're 13-3 and they got home field throughout the playoffs. The first round game could be Baltimore at New England.
That's
and
right.
that would be the tougher of the two.
That's my point.
Right?
That's my point.
Because we know Baltimore has a
and
history.
And then whoever always wins those wild cards, there's a sense of momentum that comes out of that game. And then, look, New England's lost twice at home already, so I don't want to hear this that, it's possible to win there. Yeah. And they've lost twice there. So that's when you play it out like that. That's why it makes me worry about New England as a coach.
And Baltimore has beaten them twice at home with another 2 opportunities. I mean, Lee Evans dropped a touchdown that would have given them.
And then they got to go up there in a couple weeks. So I think but Baltimore's no lock to get in here.
No.
See, that's the other problem. They're going to beat up on each other.
Yes.
And then Denver's going to sit back like a great jockey and just wait for the moment to when they're going to go to the race and when they're going to take over the race. So that's how the AFC is fascinating in the sense that we know we're probably going to get 3 teams from the West and how they're seeded. All due respect to your Miami Dolphins, if they could actually, I just don't see how they can do it. Because there's really not a wild card for them to take over.
Only you can make me doubt the Patriots.
So
it's an amazing gift shop.
Last quick point. So the Raiders obviously play tonight. I think they're going to win tonight. That would put them at 8-2. I still say the Raiders are the Cowboys of the AFC. They remind me of the Cowboys, and I think they're going to build momentum. And I won't be surprised if they're the 2 seed when all is said and done, because I still think they can win or steal this division from the Broncos and Trevor Siemian.
I think that loss yesterday Kansas City had, I think they,
And that's another one.
But I think this, Skip, I think if Oakland takes the attitude tonight that they took when they played Denver at home, if they play that way, they are really going to be the 2 seed. That's how they have to play. Cut down their penalties, control the clock, run the ball, keep their bad defense off the field. You know what's remarkable about the NFL is there's just units now. The Cowboys defense is somewhat concerning.
Yes.
The Patriots defense is somewhat. There's no team that has it completely balanced. Even Seattle, as good as Seattle is,
can't run the ball.
They can't run the ball, and now they lose their running back. Their offensive line's back is not very good. There's really no complete team. So it's all so everything becomes a matchup now. It's all who are you playing on any given day. That's why you can't just say this is a lock.
And who takes advantage of the other team's weakness the most.
Yep.
That's why
what I thought what Jay Gruden did last night was really good, because he was not going to let a bad defense come back on the field on 4th down.
Well, how could you not go ahead and go for it? I mean,
you have to. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But most coaches say you got to play the percentages.
Dom Capers still employed.
Still employed?
Yeah,
I don't know. Look, Dom, that defense, there's guys running around there. You know, when they were talking about getting balanced last night on offense, I'm thinking to myself, forget about balance. They have nobody in that secondary that can cover it. Throw it 70 times. Nobody can cover. Why would you want to be balanced? Who cares about balance at that point?
Skip, why would we think that Dom Capers would lose his job after giving up 42 points when he gave up 47 the week before?
Well, I mean, look, at some point, somebody's going to have we're going to have it. It's not Aaron Rodgers' fault, by the way.
No, it's never Aaron Rodgers' fault. We got to leave it there. Coming up, Michael gives us his biggest takeaway from the Cowboys' big win over the Ravens. More Undisputed after the break. Michael, what's your biggest takeaway from the game yesterday?
Can life get any better for Jerry Jones? I mean, really, honestly, can it get any better?
I don't know.
Grandsons winning high school playoff games. His Cowboys are 9-1.
His other grandson was in full attire yesterday, dressed out, ready to play. Yeah.
Tony Romo Jones.
That's right.
Tony Romo Jones beat that starting lineup.
I mean, can life get any better than it? My takeaway was this. I thought the Cowboys played a playoff game yesterday. I thought when you have a certain trait, Dan Henning had a great saying, if you have no tendencies, you're not any good. And the Cowboys have tendencies. And when teams take away your tendencies and force you to play left-handed and you still beat them and they're a good team, then you're a really good team. And that's my takeaway with the Cowboys. The Cowboys were forced to play left-handed yesterday. The Ravens went into the game and said, look, we're not going to let Dak run the ball. We're not going to let Zeke run the ball on us. We got a really good run defense. The ball's going to go in Dak Prescott's hands and see if he can handle it. And he did. And so for me, that was my takeaway. They played great complementary football. They kept the Ravens off the field for the second half. And I think the longer the fight goes with the Cowboys, the more their offensive line takes over the game, and they win late in the game, and they dominate the game. And I think that's what you saw yesterday. And the Ravens probably got on the team bus yesterday and said to themselves, that was our best punch. We still don't know how we lost the game, but we lost.
Well, will you give me this? The Ravens secondary.
Well, they didn't have Jimmy Smith, and look, they can't cover, and they'll be the first to tell you that. I think they will. But in the first half, when everybody was on Twitter saying, what's wrong with Dax? What's wrong with that? Well, they were getting hit.
Right.
But like a boxing match, and the longer the fight goes, your legs get a little heavier. And I think what happened to the Ravens, their legs got heavier, and they couldn't quite keep up with this. He's smirking over here. He's just so happy.
He loved that. You know what? I think the thing for me is that, and this is what I thought would happen. I thought they would take Zeke away and force Dak to throw the ball, to have to throw, and he pressed Witten right away. It was like 1, 2, 3, boom, gone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, gone. And I'm like, dude, you're a rookie quarterback. But I don't look at him no more as a rookie.
I talked to people in the league all last week in the league, and the one thing they said for me, they said, when you go on that show, will you tell people to stop calling that kid a rookie? Because the reality of it is you don't get any more complexities by week 12 of the season. He's seen it all, man.
Yeah.
He has seen it all, and he's beaten every one of them. There's no coverage he hasn't seen.
Yeah, and he went. He was 14 of 15 for 146, 2 touchdowns in the second half with 11 first downs.
And I think what happened is Dez figured out that Tony's not coming back, so Dez is programming him.
He's bought in.
He bought in.
Yeah.
I thought Dez bought in yesterday too. That's my other takeaway, Joy. Dez bought in too.
And that's a good one too. And that was a huge one. He realized he could go along for a great ride. He's not going to be the reason they win, but he is a big reason that they won yesterday. He made some big catches at big moments, and he'll get those throws if he will just button up and be patient.
Yep.
He's not going to be able to take over the huddle from this kid who's not a kid anymore, as you just point out. But I just have one takeaway from yesterday. How about them Cowboys? I'm sorry, I just had to do it one more time. Here's my takeaway. I got a question for you. We've both been watching this league for a long, long time. Are you with me that you've never seen anything quite like this? Because I don't think people can wrap their minds around what this fourth-round rookie from Mississippi State, age 23, going on 33, has done for 10 straight games. Because if you look back at the numbers of the opener, he played well enough to win the game. So he's now barely second in QBR in the league to Mr. Brady, and the two of them are lapping the field. They're pulling away from everybody else. So what he continues to do with his greatest feat yet yesterday against that grown man defense that really knows how to play the game of football. And I know they didn't have Jimmy Smith, but they threw a lot of stuff at him. In the third quarter, they were throwing kitchen sink blitzes at him, and he beat every blitz I saw yesterday. Right. He just popped, as you say, look right up. Who's hot? Jason Witten. Maybe it's Dez on the little slant for the touchdown. That was a max blitz on that play. So have you ever seen anything like the poise, the maturity, the accuracy, the presence that this kid has?
When Ben took over for Tommy Maddox in his rookie season, Ben managed the game. Ben wasn't really the Ben we know today. Right. So
but that defense was so good.
It was outstanding. That was the opposite of this. The defense carried the offense. This is what makes this so remarkable, and I'm agreeing with your point here, is the offense is carrying the defense. Because if they don't control the pace, if they don't control the tempo, there's liabilities in the defense. And that's what makes it so unbelievable. And yesterday, you know, on Speak for Yourself on Friday, they had a poll around the NFL, and they asked the question, of all these general managers, who would you rather build your team around, Dak or Carson Wentz? And naturally, because everybody had the board set up that Wentz was the best player, that everybody went with Wentz because they just want to fulfill their own false prophecies. Okay, the reality here is this kid is by far the best player on the field. There's no doubt about it. And the Cowboys are winning because of him. They're not winning. They're not managing the game around them. And when you watch Carson Wentz and just mirror the two players, Carson Wentz played against the Seattle defense and he struggled. The last 6 weeks of the season, he's below 5 yards per pass attempt. He doesn't throw the ball down the field. Like, there's liabilities in Carson Wentz. You can't find them in Dak Prescott. You can't find them. They're both rookies. They're both playing. Now, granted, the Eagles' offensive line isn't nearly as good as the Cowboys, nor their receivers, but he's not managing the game nearly as effectively as this kid. So, no, I've not seen anything like it in my career. Because most of the time, and this is why I think the Bengals, if they continue to, most of the times, good teams don't get Zeke doesn't walk on to a good team. No. This would made the Cowboys such an out. They really, because they had no backup quarterback, they lost all those games. They were a good team that got a lot of good players that probably didn't deserve to get because of their draft status. But this one, Dak is the exception because Dak's sitting in the fourth round. There's a lot of teams today, even though they're taking that poll on Carson Wentz, so a lot of teams looking at it.
Well, and I think the thing is, what people don't understand, how hard it is to play, to know that you have to play great every week in order for your team to win. See, the Broncos know if they have an off game defensively, they're not winning. The Cowboys know if they have an off game offensively, they're not winning. The Patriots, if they have an off game offensively, they're not winning. To know, and I know what it's like to have to go into games like that and say, you know what, guys, we need 30 today. We need to control the ball for 34, 35 minutes today. TD, you need to give us $150. John, you need to give us $250, or we're not going to win. That's a lot of pressure. But you're talking about John Elway. You're talking about a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning. This is a rookie.
Right.
This is a guy that you're like, okay, we need you to play. In all my years, and I played for 14 and I've watched it, I've never seen a rookie quarterback.
But let me ask you this question. Just hypothetically, let's just say, because we're building this off a false pretense that he's a fourth rounder, but let's just say he was the first pick in the draft. Let's just say that, okay? Your tone would be completely different.
Yes.
Your tone would be completely, well, your tone may not be different because you believe it. But just say he was we would say, there's your franchise quarterback.
Right.
There he is. That guy's remarkable. Make him all pro. But because he's a fourth, because it was a mistake that he's a fourth. See, we're evaluating the player on a mistake.
But that's what we do with Tom.
Exactly.
If Tom Brady was a first-round pick, we would say nothing. But what makes it so amazing, he was 192 in the 6th round.
Right, so
it looks good now. But if they thought he was that good, they would have took Dak with the 4th pick and not Zeke.
Sure.
And the Patriots would have taken Tom Brady.
Okay, and I agree with all that. But at some point, the player has performed out. I'll do it. So, and for me, I'm not looking at him as a 4th rounder. To me, if I were sitting in the Rams office, I would say to myself, should we have drafted Dak over Goff? That's really the conversation. That's the conversation.
Because they don't have that offensive line.
Well, but he's still a good player.
Yes.
And he does things that yesterday when you watch Goff can't do. Should we have drafted Goff over Wentz? Well, that's debatable, and I think his accuracy is better than Wentz. But I think that's how, to me, in scouting, the only way you ever get better in scouting is to admit your mistakes. You can't get better in personnel if you just constantly want to reinforce what you think you believed in. You can't begin with the end in mind, and then you just start collecting data to support it. And what's happened here is Prescott shouldn't have been a 4th rounder. Connor Cook shouldn't have gone ahead of him. Kessler shouldn't have gone ahead of him. None of these guys should have gone ahead of him. We have to stop evaluating him as a 4th rounder.
But Michael, you know how this works. Players can never outrun their draft status. That's where you are. If you're a free agent, you're a free agent. And then they say, well, look, this guy was undrafted. This guy was a 6th round draft pick. And he's playing like he should have been a 1st round pick. But what he should have been, because here's the thing, if you take him and he doesn't pan out, everybody's going to say you reach like they did with Christian Ponder.
But that's the great thing. Bill Walsh used to say this all the time. We make them what they are. Like, who reaches? Like, we picked Charles Haley in the 4th round, and everybody said that's a reach. He guy's in a Hall of Fame. Was it a reach? We picked Larry Roberts in the 2nd. We should have picked Haley before. We should have picked
Joe Montana in the 3rd.
Joe Montana. Right. When we get them, then we define who they are. But the problem is it's a backwards system. We're defining them. And then we're defining them when they're drafted, not how they play. It's not. That's why New England's the only one of the few teams in the league, and this is the Patriot system, and it goes back to what we did in Cleveland. The only team in the league that grades players on how they'll perform, not where they'll go in the draft. But you ask any scout after the draft, I had him in the 3rd, I had him in the 2nd. Oh, I like him as a 1st. What does that mean? That means nothing. That means nothing.
Let me ask you a question.
What round were you drafted?
I was in the 7th round.
You weren't a 7th rounder.
But here's the thing.
Well, that's debatable.
Okay, if you look at the film and you look at the way he projected, you telling me Dak Prescott should have been the 1st overall pick? Well, if you evaluate him, let's be honest now, not because we have the luxury now of seeing how he's played.
Right, but I think
coming out of college,
you're proving my point here. You're proving my point because what you just said is inaccurate. You have to define Dak. Is he a potential starter? Is he a starter? Is he a backup? And those verbiage leads you to where you have to draft him. Because for the New England system,
so they got great bang for their buck. Then they got him in the 4th.
For the New England system, for the teams that understand the draft, it's about how they play, not where they go. So when you define the player, that guy's a starter, and I get him in the 3rd round, and he starts and performs, I beat the system.
Right.
If I draft the guy as a 2nd rounder, and so that's why, to me, all this talk about Dak being a 4th rounder, it's starting with a bad concept where it's wrong. So let's just admit that's wrong. If we don't admit that's wrong, we can't evaluate him moving forward.
It's not fun to admit that you're wrong.
But I don't.
Okay.
But
I'll answer that.
Go ahead.
He has proven he should have been the 1st pick in the draft.
I don't see how he has.
But hindsight is a magnificent science.
Of course
because
it is.
you have the luxury today of knowing what you didn't know yesterday.
Of course it is. But if you say you're working for a team and you saw this, the only way you're going to learn in this league is to learn from other people's mistakes because the ones you make, you're getting fired for.
Yes.
So you have to study other teams and you have to look at them and say, okay, same with any business, any team. That's my point.
It's fate. Romo got hurt.
Rest.
And Kellen Moore got hurt. And all of a sudden, he got a chance that most 4th round rookies are never going to get.
You need Brady to get. You need a Bledsoe to get hurt.
That's what I'm saying. But if Romo had stayed healthy for the next 3 years, we wouldn't even talk about it.
I would say this. I think he would have outshined Kellen Moore in practice
That's fine.
easily.
Okay.
I think to me, talent rises to the top.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
And Brady, and if you talk to anybody in New England when Brady was the backup quarterback, they all knew Brady was good.
Right.
Like they didn't know it before. They didn't think he was a sixth round, but they knew it. And the same thing would happen with Dax. Talent rises. You can't do that.
Yeah, it's not fun to admit that you're wrong. Or you could be like me and never be wrong, and then you don't have to worry about
I
it.
know somebody like that too.
Michael will be back later in the show. Coming up, one of Aaron Rodgers' former teammates calls out his leadership ability. Skip and Shannon discuss that next. The Packers are losing, and Aaron Rodgers continues to get called out. An anonymous source close to him told Bleacher Report that Rodgers is a bleeping head case. And Rodgers' former teammate, Jermichael Finley, said this about Rodgers. I didn't really know how he showed his leadership. He wasn't a vocal guy. He really wasn't a hands-on guy. To tell you the truth, it was all about his game and his stats, in my opinion. He was a guy that kept it all in. He kept grudges close to his chest. If you did something, he never really let it go. I just don't think he was a natural-born leader. He wasn't put on earth to lead. But Aaron Rodgers is so scared of what guys are going to say that he doesn't say anything at all. He goes into his little shell. He's not a guy who hangs out with the fellas. He's really self-centered. Skip, how much of off-the-field issues affected Rodgers on the field?
A lot. I've been saying for 3 years on this show and my old show that Aaron Rodgers, or as everybody calls him, Aaron Bleepin' Rodgers, has been overhyped and overrated just because of the issues brought up in this piece written by a former beat writer of the Packers named Tyler Dunn. And it was well done by Tyler. And I've been saying for 3 years, I wouldn't want to play with Aaron because as talented, as gifted as he is, he's also quick to point fingers and quick to deflect blame onto teammates. And then slowly but surely we had Greg Jennings come on my old show and then on this show and back me up on how thin-skinned he can be.
Donald Driver said something.
Donald Driver did. Well said. And this story just drove it all home for me. And I don't want to get too deeply into the issues he has with his family because I'm not sure about those. But I am sure about what Jermichael Finley said, what Greg Jennings has said, what Donald Driver has said. Did the family issues affect Aaron on the field? Who knows? Hard to know. But relationships or lack thereof with teammates do affect a team over time. And as they start to struggle, and obviously they're beat up on defense, beat up in the offensive line, and I give Aaron Rodgers all that. But even last night, right away, early in the game, Jared Cook, who became kind of a security blanket, new target for him last night as he got back healthy. Right away, Jared Cook ran a route on an incomplete, and Aaron's saying, you know, it's just so blatant and bold on national TV. He's showing him up. And if I'm Shannon Sharp or Jared Cook, I'm not taking that. I'm going to say something to him like, just keep it to yourself. Let's talk about it at halftime or after the game, but maybe over on the bench for a second. But
as a receiver, when you make a mistake,
Yeah.
you know it. Let's keep that between you and me. The crowd doesn't need to know.
No.
The national television, the people that's watching at home don't need to know.
Right. So last night, Aaron Rodgers against a pretty bad Washington defense made some terrific throws, some with the wind, some against the wind. He also threw a bunch of mystery balls to me where it's not Aaron Rodgers. He's just a little off. Like, what was that? You missed him wide open. You're late. You're here. You're high. You're behind. I don't know. And as Tyler Dunn concluded in this piece, right now the Packers are an ordinary team with an ordinary quarterback. And this year, Aaron Rodgers has been ordinary. And I appreciated everything that Jermichael said, as tough as it is, and as you could say, he should have kept all this to himself. It's all locker room kind of stuff, but I've heard it before, and he just went to second and third levels with it. They didn't speak to each other. He said that he'd pass Aaron in the hall. Aaron wouldn't even acknowledge him in the hall, to the point that Mike McCarthy, on Saturday nights before games, finally instituted a new policy. He made them sit together for an hour just so they had to interact and talk about the next day's game. Wow. Well, that's the Aaron Rodgers I've come to know from a distance, right?
Yep.
So after a while, not a natural-born leader. And again, this piece points out that the new State Farm ad where he's screaming in the locker room, "Not here, not ever," is not Aaron Rodgers. He's acting and he's playing a part, and it's misleading to the public. They think, oh, he's a big rah-rah. He's not a rah-rah guy at all. So in the end, I appreciated the piece. I thought it was insightful. I thought it was enlightening. And I thought it gave you a window into why Aaron Rodgers is struggling with his team in the locker room and on the sideline and in the huddle as well as on the football field.
Skip, I said when he was struggling early this year, I said unless he has an injury or there's something going on with him off the field, but this is not the Aaron Rodgers that I know. I'm not going to get into the family dynamic because I'm not TMZ. I'm not the National Enquirer. That's not what I do. I evaluate the player. Skip, on
and it was, by the way, one anonymous source, so whatever. Jermichael's on the record.
Skip, I stand by. Now I'm doubling down. I said 6 or 7 years ago on my old show, I said he's not a leader, and just because he's a great talent doesn't mean he's a leader, and guys like playing with him. And the Packers, well, how do you know? You're not up here every day. You don't know what's going on. I know, because I was in the locker room for 14 years. And so I know people. I know guys in the locker room. I can read their body language.
Yep.
He's smug. He's condescending. He's aloof. Those are not great traits to have if you are going to be a leader of men. Because if guys think you don't care about them, you're dismissive because you're so much superiorly talented than they are. Skip, John and I were very, very good friends.
John Elway.
John Elway, my quarterback from 90 to 98. I text him from time to time. I pick up the phone. If I call him, he doesn't answer the phone. He'll call me back by the end of the day. There were times that he didn't play like the John Elway that I know he could play like. I would always tell him, "You're my favorite horse if you never win another race." I wanted him to know that I was in his corner. And if I made a mistake or I dropped the pass, he would always say, "T, I know you'll get the next one." That's what you need to be a leader. And see, we dismissed every time a receiver said something, Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, who it was, "Oh, that's sour grapes." Come to find out, Joy Taylor, there are a lot of guys eating those grapes. Because there are a lot of guys that got sour grapes on it.
Yeah.
I told you, there are 3 types of people that'll tell you the truth. Angry people, drunks, and kids. I'm telling you, I know this guy. Look, I don't know Aaron Rodgers personally, but if I would in that locker room when I did that interview and the mere thought of mentioning his name, guys didn't want to touch it.
Yep.
Go to any locker room. Go to Baltimore. Go to Denver. Don't ask the players because they're going to have to tell you the truth. No, John Elway is going to have to be politically correct. Rob Smith, guys that are known, going to ask the guys that people really don't know. What was Shannon like? Ask the equipment guy. Ask the trainers, what was he really like? Then and only then can you get a true interpretation of what a player is actually like. Skip, I knew it from day. I knew it when I went and did the interview in Green Bay, walking through that locker, walking through the hallways, talking to the guy.
What year was it? How many years ago?
It had to be 6 or 7.
Okay, so he was at his height. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. You know what? It might have not been that long ago. He might have just won the MVP.
Okay.
It might have been 5 years ago. But I know it, Skip. I know Skip. It's just like when you're around reporters. You know reporters. You know the good ones. You know the bad ones. You know the ones you can trust. You know that. Being a player for 14 years, and I started at the bottom. So I wasn't always the guy in the locker room. So I had to mingle and mix and match with a lot of different guys. It wasn't always John Elway was my best friend or Steve Atwater was Steve was because, he was a defensive back and we always talked. But I worked my way up. But I also knew, starting at the bottom, and all of a sudden now I'm the guy, I would always talk to the guys that weren't the guys. Because I never wanted them to think that I was better than they was, just because I was a better player. We're in this together. I wanted guys, if you want to ask me something, hey, ask me. I'm always willing to talk. But I'm not surprised. People are like, I can't believe that's. Stop thinking what you see, the 2 hours you see a guy throwing a football, or a guy tackling, a guy catching passes that you think you know him. This is who he is. Here's a guy that interacted with Ron him because I tell you this. Guys spend, players, athletes spend more time around their teammates than they do their own family. You can fool the media Because you get up there in front of a press conference, you put the fake smile on and do the coach's spiel and all that. You can do the commercials. You can't fool them guys in the locker room because they see you every day. They see you come to work. They see you at work. They see you leave. You can't fool them. And you couldn't fool me. He couldn't fool me. This is who Aaron Rodgers is. I'm not surprised that Jermichael Finley took this strong of a stance because I've heard it before from other guys that didn't say it publicly. And I knew it to be true.
So do you think in the New England locker room there's love for Tom Brady? Tremendous love.
Peyton Manning.
I agree. Peyton Manning.
Drew Brees.
You got it. So when those teams struggle, as Green Bay is struggling, and obviously there are legit excuses, defense, offensive line can't run the ball, but he still has some weapons that he can throw to.
Yes.
So there are times, like you keep bringing up, where even last night, certainly with the wind, they had a chance to get back in the game because he can still throw it and they can still catch it.
Right.
But when there's not that basis, that reservoir of love between the quarterback and the receivers, then something's missing. And as soon as one thing goes wrong, he throws one errant pass, the receivers are like, yeah, he's going to point the finger at me. And so I thought Green Bay started quitting last night. It felt like a quit to me, a total quit, because they don't trust the quarterback because they don't like the quarterback in the end. So they're not going to play. They're not going to give up, give their bodies for the quarterback to stay, to fight and hang in a football game.
And as bad as this defense is, and the Packers defense are atrocious, that doesn't mean Aaron Rodgers can't score every time he touches the football.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a limit that says, Aaron, you can only score on 5 or 6 of your possessions. That they don't say that. So Aaron Rodgers, and he played well last night. And this is, but I think what we're discussing is who this man is and why he doesn't get, because you don't see them guys talking about, oh, yeah, Aaron's my guy. Oh, boy, I love playing with Aaron Rodgers. You hear guys, I love playing with Tom Brady. I love playing with Peyton Manning. Michael Irvin, love for Troy Aikman. My love for John. All I know is that every guy that has taken the shot, maybe they felt comfortable once they were away from there, because you don't want to take a shot at a guy while you're there because you know he has so much cachet. He can definitely get you out of there. So when you get your opportunity and it presents itself and someone asks you and you want me to speak openly and honestly, I'm going to answer you openly and honestly. This is who Aaron Rodgers is. Hey, he's a great talent. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But this explains why some of his teammates feel the way they feel about him.
Well, usually this stuff comes out when you start losing. Obviously, when you're having fun and winning, there's nothing bad to say. But we've been hearing this for so long, even when they were winning, like you said, that it's starting to become more clear. Coming up, who is the NFL's most valuable player right now? Michael Lombardi is back with us with his pick next. Tom Brady threw 4 touchdown passes in the Patriots' win yesterday. Dak Prescott threw 3 touchdown passes, and Ezekiel Elliott had over 100 total yards in the Cowboys' win. Skip?
Yes, before we start,
Yes.
my man Lil Wayne just texted me that we're being way too hard on his Green Bay Packers and his quarterback Aaron Rodgers, and you would probably agree with that.
Well, I would. I mean, everything that was wrong. In fact, I was going to tweet last night to my dear friend, the attorney over here, that Aaron Rodgers is missing all those tackles on defense and couldn't cover anybody. And I think what really Lil Wayne has to come to the realization, much of the Packer Nation has to as well, is they're just not very good. And they have a lot of injuries, but they're just not as talented as they have been in the past. The thing that Jared Cook showed last night, and I know this is off the tangent, but he showed that if they had a tight end that could make some plays in there, and it's not Richard Rodgers, that perhaps it would really help them. You know what James Stark also showed, if they had a back? To me, last night was an indictment of all the games they've lost. Because if they would have had a legitimate back or signed one, like Starks was running the ball, that would have helped. If they would have had another tight end like Cook, that would have helped them. So to me, Counselor, that game proved my case about Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, let's get back to things that matter.
Who is your MVP right now?
Well, Chris Healy, the producer of the show, won't let me vote for the Cowboys' offensive line, so I got deterred from that. I'm going to go with Dak's because I think Dak has done something unlike, as we talked about in an earlier segment. He's not a rookie. He's not a 4th-round pick any longer. And I do believe that he is really the reason why the Cowboys are winning. And it's funny, the most valuable player this year will truly be the most valuable player because they are carrying a side of the football they are helping their defense, whether it's Brady, Dak, or whomever. They're carrying their entire team, because if they don't play well, like you said, their defense can't stand alone. And I think that's truly the most valuable player. And in this case, this is why I think the quarterback yesterday was the one that twisted me to Dak, because the Ravens went into the game saying, we're going to force you to beat us. We're going to force you to make the plays, force you to make the throws. We're a good defense. We're going to press you. Can you do it? At some point, you're going to have to be a rookie. And he wasn't. So he's my MVP. Go ahead. The floor's yours.
This was tough for me, but after all my evaluations and on my 5-hour flight back from Atlanta, I had an indication. I said, you know what? Somehow Skip is going to want to talk about this guy from Mississippi State.
He could be from Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice.
I went with Russell Wilson because I think he has the higher degree of difficulty. Because if Dak doesn't play well, he could lean on the NFL's leading rusher. Tom Brady, if he doesn't play well, he could lean on the NFL's 5th leading rusher in LeGarrette Blount. If Russell Wilson doesn't play well, they're not winning.
But he can lean on his defense.
Yeah, but they're not
the only reason why
they're ninth. They're normally top 5. They're not the Legion of Boom that we remember 2012, 2013.
Carson Wentz that?
Well, you already out on Carson Wentz anyway. But Skip, if you look at what he's doing, they can't run the football. The offensive line as a total is only making $9 million. His last 3 games, they had 8 total touchdowns, 6 pass, 1 rush. Caught one yesterday, Skip. Look at this. He caught a touchdown. Yeah, he caught a touchdown yesterday.
The throw to Jimmy Graham might be one of the greatest throws of this season.
And for what he's doing with no running game, his offensive line, like I said, I get the case for everybody else, but for my money and what he's doing right now, give me Russell Wilson. A high ankle sprain, sprained knee, finally running into shape, starting to look like Russell Wilson. And he only had everybody, he's a dual threat. The guy has 79 yards rushing. He's not a dual threat quarterback anymore. He's throwing the ball from the pocket. I got Russ.
Do 3 games an MVP make? Because I'll give you 3 games.
Skip, they're 7-2-1.
Huh?
They're 7-2-1.
Yeah, but he really struggled for the previous however many games they played, 7 games.
Oh, I agree. We don't make excuses. He was injured. You know that. I know that. But it doesn't matter. He's still my MVP. Yes, he's my MVP.
You know what? I'm glad you picked Russell Wilson, because you're helping make the case that I made to start this show. And it is making me angry, not at you, but just in the big picture, that Dak Prescott still is not getting nearly enough credit for what he's pulling off, because it is extraordinary. And I'm going to say again what I told you at the top of the show. We opened this show, inaugural show, September 6th, and I told you I'd never seen, in all my years since the mid-'70s covering this league, I've never seen a rookie quarterback, play with such poise, maturity, presence, and accuracy in 3 preseason games as I saw this kid. And the 3rd one was at Seattle, full dress rehearsal against that Seahawks.
They still can win. And the other conversation we never hear out of Dallas is they don't have enough weapons around them. Usually when a quarterback struggles, it's because, they really, they don't have weapons around them. You never hear that conversation. Even when Dez was out, they moved the ball effectively. The offense runs. He can deliver the ball with accuracy. He puts it in the right spot. The throw to Beasley for the first touchdown was really a great throw on the move. So everything he does, to me, has indicated that he's risen his game as the season has gone on. And he's met every single challenge, and mentally and physically, and he hasn't tired. He hasn't hit the wall. Wentz might have hit the wall.
Yeah.
There's some rookies that hit the wall. This kid hasn't he's run through the wall. And I think that's why you have to give him great consideration for it, because the Cowboys have changed who they are as a football team. They are workmanlike. They are consistent as could be. I know this is painful for you, but it's true. I mean, we all have to accept reality, and I think that he has changed who the Cowboys are. And this is not a knock on Tony Romo. And I'll say this. I don't think Jason Witten is half the player he once was.
No.
Ozzie Newsome once told me that when he got towards the end of his career, he felt when his legs were going, he started to drop footballs. This is back in '92. Ever since that time, he told me that when great players who have great hands start to drop balls, I always believe they're starting to lose their legs. It looks to me like Jason Witten isn't the same player. That doesn't mean he's not going to make a lot of great plays, but he's dropping footballs that you typically never see him drop.
And that's, what, Skip, you say he doesn't get the accolades like a Braid and all these other guys. The dish is not what you pay for. You go to a fancy restaurant, they give you steak, they give you a piece of fish. It's the garnishments.
They call it presentation.
Yes, there it lies. He doesn't have he's just a nice hey. Here's a watch. You're not going to wrap it for me. You're not going to let me take the ball
But
off
everybody keeps moving the line on the kid. Everybody keeps saying, well, if he goes into Green Bay and beats Green Bay, I'll buy him. Everybody says, well, if he goes into Pittsburgh and beats Pittsburgh, I'll buy him. And then he does. And
Eric
nobody
Mangini
buys.
sat right there in that seat and said, because he coached the San Francisco defense, he said he's going to have a hard time against this defense in Santa Clara. I don't know about
Jerry
this.
names him the starter. I'm on the bandwagon. The day Jerry named him the starter, I'm getting me a Dak Prescott jersey, and I'm wearing it on the air.
Whoa.
That's all Jerry got to do,
Jerry,
Skip, and I'm
please do that. I'm going to hold you to that one.
Jerry has named
No, Jerry named nothing. Jerry said nothing.
Thanks for joining us, Michael. Be sure to download the Make Me Smarter football podcast with Michael and Nick Wright. New episode out tomorrow. Michael, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Coming up, are the Raiders in the driver's seat in the AFC West? Skip and Shannon debate that next.
Thank you.
And realize Dak Prescott is dominating the league this year.
They're lucky.
I've never seen anything like how little credit he's now getting for what he does.
If your owner won't come out and praise his own quarterback, the media sure is not going to do it.
It's all Dak all the time. Thank you very much.
Man, I'm done talking about the Cowboys.
Did you see what Dak Prescott
Sit down, man. You ain't even show me.
That was Skip and Shannon debating Dak Prescott earlier in the show. Get that debate and our top 5 debates every day on the Undisputed podcast. Download it now on iTunes and SoundCloud. Big game tonight in Mexico City as the 7-2 Raiders face the 6-3 Texans. The Raiders are undefeated away from Oakland this season and can take a 1-game lead in their division after the Chiefs lost to the Bucs yesterday. Shannon, are the Raiders in the driver's seat in the AFC West?
I still don't believe so because the last month of the season, they have 3 games on the road, and they're all against division opponents. The Broncos, San Diego, and the Chiefs. Now, if I'm them, I would rather be in this position than being the chaser. I like being the chasee, but I still have my questions. Offensively, I think they're fine on that side of the football. Skip, you mentioned, I think they have the second best offensive line in football. They got skill positions, Crabtree, Cooper, Latavius Murray can run the football. They can do it all on that side of the football. That's not a concern of mine. I still question the penalties. You can't commit 10 penalties for 90 yards a game and win very many games, and their defense is still at the near the bottom. So with that being said, I still believe the Broncos will catch and pass the Raiders, but they're sitting pretty right now. We'll know a lot more tonight because if they lose tonight, right back in the mix. But I still believe the Broncos, because that game at home will be for the division. I believe the Broncos beat them the final game of the season at home and they win that division.
I'm standing by preseason prediction. I believe the Raiders will win this division because, as Joy pointed out, they still haven't lost a single road game. I guess this one qualifies in Mexico City, though it's neutral site, but I think they'll win tonight. And I think they'll win 2 of those 3 road games. And I think they will win this division because as well as Trevor Siemian has played, and he's been better than I ever thought he could be, he's still Trevor Siemian.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I'm not buying Trevor Siemian is going to win the West over the Raiders. And
Tebow did it.
Yeah. Okay. But that was Tim Tebow.
Oh, okay.
By the way, I got to say this quickly. See, it's really angering me about Dak Prescott because there's no Tebow factor to it. Like there's no phenomenon to it because Tebow just went through the roof. It's like, how can he be doing
this?
He left
college with that, though, Skip.
Yeah, okay. But there's something going on with Tebow that is not going on with Dak, and it's killing me. Let's look at. Okay. So I'm going to say this again. The Raiders are the Cowboys of the AFC. It's the Oakland Cowboys or the Dallas Raiders, however you want to look at it, because they're doing it. The blueprint is the same. They are controlling the football. They're third are the Raiders in time of possession. So they're keeping an even worse defense than Dallas has off the field for the most part, because this defense is ranked 22nd in points allowed. The Raiders, that's not remotely good enough to make any playoff kind of statement, but they're 5th in points. They have a terrific young quarterback who also gets a little better by the game. He's got years under his belt, obviously, that Dak Prescott doesn't have. But it's a little more spectacular and explosive offense of Derek Carr's. They can run the ball, maybe not the way Zeke can run the ball, but as you say, second best offensive line. And they have that Cowboy-esque momentum. And I think it will carry them through a stretch where I just think they might lose 2 more games, but that's not going to be enough to vault Denver to the top of that division. And I still say it's going to wind up Raiders at Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Would I give the Raiders much of a shot? Probably not much of a shot, but I believe they get that far.
But it's hard for me to believe that a team that has Khalil Mack on it is last in the NFL in sacks.
Don't get it.
And there are times that he jumps off the screen at you, and you realize, like, this dude is special. And then some games you're just like, okay, I'm waiting for them to call his name. Their offense is dynamic. 7 of the 9 games they've scored at least 28 points. But here's the thing. They give up a bunch of points also. And my concerns coming down the stretch is that they won a game. Think about this. They won a game in which they committed 23 penalties. You normally, once you get to double digits, you normally lose. So 10 or 11, you normally lose. You win a game in which you commit 23, which is an NFL record. And I feel that will be their undoing, the penalties and their defense, because I think the offense is dynamic. And all it takes is once you have one bad game in which your offense can't bail you out, can the defense make enough plays to bring them home and get a victory? Those are my concerns. I still believe Denver possessed the best defense in this division and going on the road. Because, okay, I know they're undefeated on the road, but they beat the Saints on the road, losing record. They've beaten who else? They've beaten the Ravens on the road, losing record. They've beaten Tampa on the road, losing record.
I know, but those are 3 dangerous teams to me. Those are impressive wins.
How dangerous they got a losing record? They're not even close to 500, those teams.
Well, but Tampa just went to Kansas City and won. That's pretty impressive.
Tampa might be 5-5 now, so they might be 500. But New Orleans not even close to being 500, and the Ravens are not even close to being 500.
Did New Orleans not have Denver beaten in New Orleans?
There's no such thing as had them beaten.
They had them beaten. Was it not down to just kick the extra point?
And what happened? The defense.
I don't know what happened.
You know what happened.
I don't know. I don't know how they got away with that. They stole it.
In special teams, you never want to hear the double thud, Skip.
Yeah.
The opponent's foot hitting the ball and then hit the ball hitting someone's hand. When you hear that double thud,
well, it was a triple thud because it wound up in another rookie's hands and he's going the other way.
Not a little bit of Broncos bias there. A little bit.
Little Elway bias. That's what it is.
No.
That's okay.
Well, hey, Skip, when we go to Denver for the AFC Championship game, don't you want a free meal?
No, I don't. I buy my own food. I don't need free meal.
I will always
well, you go right ahead and buy your own.
For the record, I will always take the free meal. Coming up, who is the biggest threat to the Cowboys in the NFC? Skip and Shannon debate that next.
Hold up, wait, it's time to skip all the other stuff. And Shannon sharp, he the sharpest, that's why he cutting up.